All the world is a stage. We're not players. We're just members in the audience. I hope you know where the exits are. Queer and Anarchy. We're about to talk reality. Y'all ready? Here we go. Whew, I almost didn't get the quote up in time. All right, so this quote for tonight is from Paracelsus. Thoughts create a new heaven, a new firmament, a new source of energy from which new arts flow. When a man undertakes to create something, he establishes a new heaven. Now, if that's true, better be real careful about who you're allowing to create your reality, your heaven, your hell. Um, Gentlemen, it's bizarre and exciting, but also very, I don't know, you got to be attentive in this time that it is to be alive.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. One of the things that we were discussing in our private conversations that people may or may not be aware of is that on our in our we've been talking about how reality functions, and one of the things that we talked about is even the how people live in the days that we're living are asinine. We live in rows. We live in identical houses on streets where you're not allowed to have a store. You know, that's not human society. That's not the reality that I think nature has provided for us. So the realities that we deal with on a daily basis, Chad's right. Watch what you create. We were once in a religious ceremony, and we're talking with one of the voodoo spirits, or I take that back. It was an Enochian angel. I remember now. And they said, your reality changes all the time. You know, this is what reality used to be. Imagine what reality will be like tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. You know, it's crazy.
No, that was it. Go ahead, Nicco.
Reality can change in a matter of changing people's perspectives. So, like, if we were to all say, you know what, tomorrow's going to be April 30th, 1984. Let's bring it back again, boys. And you get at least 500 people to do that. You completely change their reality. Ultimately change their reality.
Yeah, for real. Like everybody wears the clothes from the 80s, and you know what I mean? Like people do it all the time. These retro nights and all this sort of stuff. You feel like you time warped back to there.
Yeah. So changing in reality is not far off from tomorrow.
For sure. And I don't think, people like to think that reality is a stable thing. That's bullshit. And it can be scientifically proven. One of the things that because I've studied physics to a degree, I'm not a physicist. I'm not nearly that smart. But one of the things that they've done with the splits,
this isn't a Holiday Inn Express either, by the way. This is
right. But this is Chad's Fancyland. But no, seriously, in science, they have this slit experiment that they do, and what they found, and I'm not going to get into the in depth of it, but they found that when you observe something, it changes the reaction through the slit. And I like getting into the slit, but
I knew you were going there, man. Right. That's just like, man, I'm not saying it, but it's coming.
Sure, but the particles that they throw out can either be like particles or like waves. And it depends on whether it's being observed or not, how it functions. So if we can alter whether what you're observing is a particle or a wave, then what can we not change? So reality is not as solid as we think it is. And if you need proof of that greater than to go look at the slit experiment, look up physics and all of this stuff I just talked about, there's a channel that I've been enjoying of late called the Impossible Channel. It's a guy from Brazil. I don't particularly like the way he talks, but he throws videos of a bunch of crazy crap.
And some Portuguese?
Yeah, no, I don't speak Portuguese at all, and neither does he. Well, he might speak it, but he doesn't speak it on the show.
Okay.
And
He
so
just speaks English with a Portuguese accent.
correct, and he looks American as shit. But anyhow, the video, some of them are obviously not, any altered reality, but some of them make you question whether it's UFOs or whether it's hollow earth or whether it's flat earth or whatever the hell he's showing. It shows something. Like, there are videos of things that we don't think exist that we have video of. And so again, I don't believe, because I believe deeply in God, and I believe that God controls reality. And because of that, God is in charge of what can and cannot happen. And so there is no rule that's hard and fast.
Y'all heard of the X-Files?
For sure.
That shit real.
Yo, there was a clip that came out like this week. I hadn't seen it before, but they're like going through this whole thing. Y'all saw that? I posted it, and then they had somebody in the comments of that posted this video. Bro, there's this show called The Lone Gunman. The pilot episode, it was a spinoff of the X-Files. Pilot episode was March of 2001. Mm-hmm. March of 2001. You can go look it up on IMDb. Okay, this is not some shit that some like wacko pulled out of their ass and like reappropriated the date to make it look like it matched up. No, this shit is from
verbatim
2001, March 2001, and it is like a terrorist attack where they remote control some planes to try to fly them into New York City, and they save the plane at the last second and fly just over the Twin Towers and miss it. And the whole thing, the whole setup is like the Cold War is kind of over, so we don't really have like an enemy. We need to create new enemies. I'm like, well, damn, yep, that's pretty much
right. I think I seen that. Loki, I'm fairly sure I think I seen that.
Oh my gosh, bro, it was crazy. So we'll pull that up in that. But so like what we wanted to do tonight was we were just going to talk about reality. Like Marcus said, we had this conversation in our Telegram chat. Shout out to the Telegram chat. If you're not already on board, I'm going to throw our banner up here. If you're not already on board, join the Patreon, become a member, become a patron, and for the $5 a month, you get to be in our private Telegram chat there. But we were having this discussion. Hotep Dutch, shout out to Hotep Dutch for kind of bringing this to our attention. We were just talking about like neighborhood zoning codes and all this other kind of stuff, and how that can serve to effectively like create a reality for the people who want to create that certain reality themselves, to consolidate power into their own hands or to restrict other people's freedom because it helps either their business or whatever the case may be. Some people are just busybodies and they like to nanny people and they don't like the way certain people act, and so they make laws to do it. So there are places where like I think the subject came up about suburbs and how like there are all these zoning restrictions for suburbs where you can't have like restaurants and certain things in these neighborhoods. It can only be houses. And there's a lot of that stuff. And then there are these gray areas where like you start to get to some of the larger streets. And it's like, okay, well, but you got to have gas stations somewhere because people are going to run out of gas right by their house and all this bullshit. So there's a lot of like friction around that. And so we started having this discussion about that and like reality, and it just kind of merged together where like these two conversations were going on at the same time, and it came together. And then we had a doozy dropped in our laps yesterday where if you don't think that the people in power, and I gotta give a shout out to the people in the Bitcoin Mystery School Telegram group. That's one you have to actually go through Bitcoin Mystery School to be part of that. But in that group, there are a lot of people. There are a lot of folks who are very strong Christian and a lot of Orthodox, because that's kind of the path that Vin and some of his Cyprian and his folks have been going down that path. And so there's a lot of that comes up. But the quote that was kind of reverberating the last couple of days was Ephesians 6:12, and that is that we fight not with flesh and blood, but with powers and principalities. It's a different kind of battle, and we have to keep our head on a swivel and recognize the reality that's being created. Like Marcus was talking about how God creates reality, but there are evil forces, there are demonic spirits that are out there, perhaps not creating reality, but manipulating our
For sure.
perception of reality. And one of the ways that they did that was yesterday, where we had this this tragic shooting, and I want to start this off by doing something that a lot of other people don't do. There's too much, I think, too often, just jumping to the rabbit holes, jumping into the agendas, and jumping into whatever narrative or agenda someone wants to push. And there's not enough just understanding that, like, these demonic spirits, these evil actors are actually hurting people. They're actually killing people. They're actually doing real damage to human life and to humanity and to the soul, because it's actually their objective. The physical toll that is exactly spiritual warfare. The physical element of this is just a means to an end. The end is the destruction and the devouring of souls. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing that we have to keep in mind, is that as all of this stuff is going on and we're seeing the evil agendas play themselves out, we cannot lose our souls. We cannot lose our compassion. We can't lose the love and the spirit of understanding and just commiserating with that pain and sympathy. So I want, first and foremost, I want to recognize the loss of life for what it is, and to recognize that we can see that loss of life for what it is and how tragic it is that happened, but also recognize that there are people who are using that and exploiting that, and that we don't have to buy into that exploitation in order to sympathize with the loss of life and with the tragedy.
Sure. And one of the things that I want to add to that, Chad, is that, one of the advantages, I think, and I think it's important to know your enemy. And, I've spent a lot of time in spiritual thought and in spiritual study. And one of the topics that I became interested in reading about, but not particularly doing a lot of, at one time, was demonology. And particularly a book called the Goetia, which is actually one piece of a larger book called the Lemegeton, which is an old demonic grimoire. Grimoire is more or less a spell book. And it describes a bunch of demons, a bunch of energies that you can call and talk to. And one of the things that we were talking about before we came on here was that we want to see when we're thinking about, like, the devil, or and I don't particularly believe in the devil. It's not part of my belief system, but I do believe in evil, and but we want to see it as this ugly, evil, thing where it's slaughtering children, being Darth Vader, if anybody's seen the new Obi-Wan, and just slaughtering people for the hell of it. That's what we want to think that demons are going to show up like. That ain't it, people.
It's Matthew McConaughey.
Right. It's Matthew McConaughey. It is in there are two demons that I particularly dislike that are in the Goetia. One of them is Belial, and Belial is everything I just said. He's a bastard. I don't want him showing up. The second one is Baal, and Baal is a deceiver. His entire existence is, and to be clear, in many ways, he is the golden calf. He is the thing that you worship, and what he does in a fictional demonic text called the Necronomicon, he's really close to Nyarlathotep, which is an evil being that takes over using charisma, using
not part of Hotep
words.
Nation, by the way.
Right, for sure. Nothing peaceful about this dude, but Baal and a lot of these demonic forces don't use violence. They don't use force. That's for others to do for them. What they do is they manipulate and they twist.
Yeah, I recommend everybody
Difference is high.
Yeah,
sure.
exactly. Read and listen to. If you have if you want to audiobook it, you can listen to it, or you can read the Screw Tape Letters by C.S. Lewis. It is a brilliant breakdown of what his interpretation is of what like a relationship with a devil or a demon and his nephew, who he's trying to teach in the ways of this manipulation and like the different ways that they just using distraction and just using like people's judgment of other people against them and all these different things. Like if you can just keep them off of like following the path towards God, towards divine intimacy, towards a relationship, and keep them more in like their head, scholarly, kind of like a scientific approach to God rather than a relationship with God.
Yeah.
Then I mean, there's so many. It's oh shoot. Thank you, Scam Likely. No thanks. Anyway, let's get into Mr. McConaughey, the devil with a blue dress. But first, I'm going to read this. I'm going to read Ephesians 6:12 in its entirety, real quick. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers, against the directors of this world of darkness, against the spirits of wickedness in high places. And that's what we're talking about here. This is something altogether different, and it manifests itself in some of these powerful people, but it is not. It doesn't end there. There's the puppet masters behind, pulling the strings, are in other places where the only weapons that work against them are like prayer and virtue and building that relationship and love. Those are the weapons that defeat these. So I'm going to start the video here of Mr. McConaughey giving his little speech yesterday. But gentlemen, if you want to chime in at any point, Nicco, Marcus, I suggest everybody go and watch this thing at some point at your own convenience if you haven't seen it already. It's only about 20 minutes long. But we're going to kind of talk over a lot of it here because I don't want to keep pausing it because it's going to take forever to get through it if we do that. But y'all feel free to interrupt Mr. McConaughey and just jump in and point out, like we did with the Super Bowl, where it's just like, oh, you see what he did right there? But I want y'all to focus on one thing real quick before we start. He starts this thing off with talking about making the loss of life matter and a window of opportunity. And tell me if that shit don't sound like two things. The Overton window and maneuvering that window to where certain things that weren't acceptable before in the gun community become acceptable as restrictions. And second, that whole like we have an opportunity. It's that Cass Sunstein, Rahm Emanuel, never let a good crisis go to waste language. So here we go.
Before you do that, Chad,
with the White House. Yeah, go ahead.
I want to set something else up.
Yeah.
I want everyone who's watching this, whether it's now or in the replay, look at the screen. What you're looking at is exactly what they're trying to portray. Yeah. Who does he look like? He looks like the president of the United States on every fucking movie that you've ever seen. Yeah. He has the flag.
Justin Trudeau south of the border.
Right.
That's what he is. He's that very polished, good-looking, man that everybody wants him to be the president because nobody wants it to be the old white man who everybody remembers for presidencies, back for centuries. No, it's got to be the new young hip guy.
It's the savior.
Exactly, Nicco.
Exactly. The Antichrist is supposed to look like Christ. He's supposed to be Christ to all the people who will get sucked into it. So here we go.
First of all,
make the loss of these lives matter.
Notice he's portrayed like he doesn't really want to be here.
Wife and I, Camilla, we spent most of last week on the ground with the families in Uvalde, Texas. We shared stories, tears, and memories.
Look at her shoes over there.
The common thread, independent of the anger and the confusion and the sadness, it was the same. How can these families continue to honor these deaths by keeping the dreams of these children and teachers alive? Again, how can the loss of these lives matter?
all lives matter.
So while we
That's
honor
what he just said.
and acknowledge the victims, we need to recognize that this time it seems that something is different. There's a sense that perhaps there's a viable path forward. Responsible parties in this debate seem to at least be committed to sitting down and having a real conversation about an improved path forward.
Yeah, he's not. Chad, pause this for a second. I'm sorry.
Path that can actually.
It's all good. Go ahead.
One of the things that because I'm afraid people are going to miss things. One of the things that I want people to pay attention to is how they are crafting this. That they are, he didn't want to be there. I also need to point out, he's saying we, Kamala and I. That's something that Biden has said.
Camilla, that's his wife.
Yeah. Okay, I thought it was Kamala.
No,
got it.
His wife Camilla.
Got it.
Yeah.
I misunderstood.
Yeah.
But I want everyone to pay attention as he speaks to the keywords.
Yeah.
Pay attention to what words he's using, because every bit of this has been written for him.
Think of a commercial, think of advertising, think of any kind of propaganda, PR, any of that kind of stuff. It's very and the other thing is too, like, watch for the mixture of sadness and like this, like like pain, and then these like flashes of rage.
Right.
That
also,
come out of it too.
Also, remember that the tried and true propaganda formula. The tried and true propaganda formula is to offer a problem, describe that problem, and then offer and get you down to a low point, and then offer a solution, and only one solution. So,
yeah. So Natasha brings up like the Ukraine, like that, the Zelensky, like we're watching an actor as president in another country right now become like the hero to the world. He's on every awards show and everything. Like, it's there. If y'all don't see the jukes coming from a mile away, I don't know what to tell you. I cannot help you. But keep in mind, like, again, Ephesians 6:12, the weapons that you use in this war, in this battle, are not physical. They are not. Now we have to work on our own, like, physical health and all that sort of stuff. I see Jimmy Doss, speaking of somebody who does that all the time. He kind of reminded me of that. We need to work on all that stuff, because that helps to keep our mind sharp, and it makes it to where we are less susceptible to some of these things, because when we are in the right place with our temple, right, our soul is more in tune with being able to receive as an antenna from the right source, and to transmit the right message to the rest. What's up, Papa Hotep? I appreciate y'all coming in here. So let's get back into it. Just listen for those things. Listen for the way that this is crafted. And also, so if you noticed, I'm sure everybody knows about the Converse shoes by now, the green Converse with the heart on the shoe, or whatever. That's what Camilla, off in the audience, you'll see her off to the side. She's holding those shoes. And it's so crazy because Cyprian yesterday called, like, those shoes is going to be the new Take a Knee. That's going to be the flag that you put in your bio and everything. And so I have a meme that I made that I'll put up here eventually. But anyway, it's basically like, now it's going to be like that one flag from that country in the Middle East, the Ukraine flag, the flag for June, and then the Converse shoes. That's going to be the.
Hey man, I understand that you can just say Pride Month. I want my month still. But like,
I want this to be Humility Month. I'm tired of why we got what. It's very ironic that it becomes one of the 7 deadly sins is the name of the month, but that's another story for another day.
I lost my month. This was
my lost your month.
Yeah,
I know, man.
Nico's birth month.
Nico's birth month, and like, shout out to Juneteenth. That's the day before your birthday, man.
Hey, cut that out.
All right, so here we go.
Hey, Chad, put your hand through the camera real quick so I can smack it.
All right. My hand or my head? You want to high five me? All right, here we go.
I don't need Nicco playing with your head.
There's something different this time.
Camille and I came here to share my stories from my hometown, Uvalde. Came here to take meetings with elected officials on both sides of the aisle.
It's a miracle.
We came here to speak to them, to speak with them, and to urge them to speak with each other. to remind and inspire them that the American people will continue to drive forward the mission of keeping our children safe, because it's more than our right to do so. It's our responsibility.
More than a right.
To do
responsibility.
So.
Responsibility trumping
in
right.
hopes of applying what energy, reason, and passion.
Well, okay, so the other thing is, I'm gonna unpause it, but it's fine. Like responsibility, that tapping into actual good things, virtues, and then weaponizing them and distorting them the other way. On the other side of every virtue is a vice, and so that's where, like, when you start talking about someone else's responsibility, but you're not talking about your own responsibility.
Factual.
The biggest takeaway for me from this whole thing was, notice the one thing that never got mentioned in this whole speech. The fact that the police stood outside and let the shit happen and kept the parents from going in and stopping it for 78 minutes. Never mentioned. You want to talk about responsibility? That's the only responsibility that actually could have done anything about this, and it was completely abdicated. We will let him continue.
I gotta say one more thing to that, because this is something I found out about that I didn't know about that particular shooting. Because again, this is all, they are manipulating reality. They are manipulating what you think and what you feel, and this is a plan. None of this is by chance. It's hilarious that he is from this city. I'm telling you, this is the funniest thing ever, because I was unaware that many of the students that went to the school were not there, and that's because they had a big show that day or whatever, and the parents were allowed to take their kids home after the convocation. And so if you're one of the shitbags that's in charge of planning this, because this was planned, if you're one of the shitbags that was involved in the planning, your kids weren't in school. Your kids, you came and got them after the fucking, whether you went to their event or not, you came and got your kids and took them home so they can get shot. And so that is not a coincidence. None of this, none of it. I mean, you can call me a conspiracy theorist all you want. When they release the in 20 years or whenever we overthrow the government, when that happens, we'll find out that this whole thing was planned.
You got to think, there's still so much shit that happened on a day-to-day basis that we have no idea that they're still covering up. So I mean,
for sure.
It's still in plain sight what they're still covering up. And then if you pay attention, they're saying the military, after Maddie speaks, they say the military are suffering from some radioactive or something like that. And I'm like, what? Pay attention. If people listen to it afterwards, they start talking about the military and them being afflicted by certain radioactive material and things of that nature. That's a bill that they're signing into. And I'm like, bro, there's so many other things that y'all need to worry about.
No. Did he just freeze?
Yeah, I think he did.
Why don't y'all up to date?
There he is.
Hello? Hi.
You back?
You're back.
Yeah.
Okay. But I know for a fact, the military service surveillance and everything like that, there is out the wazoo since we spend all of our money towards military. So don't give me that bullshit.
Yeah. All right, so we're not even 2 minutes into this thing, so I'm going to try to let's try to not pause it. We'll just talk over him. I don't care. We can get over. We can talk over him. It's fine.
Into trying to turn this moment into a reality.
Turning it into a reality.
This moment is different. We are in a window of opportunity right now that we have not been in before.
An opportunity.
To see this as an opportunity is disgusting.
Right.
Fuck?
Emergencies are used by government, just like Hayek said, to take away rights.
Kindergarten, less than a mile from Robb Elementary. Uvalde is where I learned to master a Daisy BB gun.
I'm one of y'all.
That took 2 years before I graduated to a .410 shotgun. Uvalde is where I was taught to revere the power and the capability of the tool that we call a gun.
Oh yeah.
Because he's going to be the next
where I learned
Democratic
President
candidate.
El Presidente.
Now, Uvalde called me on May 24th when I learned the news.
Why the hell would they call
tragedy.
Matthew
I had been on
McConaughey?
cellular range, working in the
Who
studio
the fuck is
all day
Matthew
when I
McConaughey?
noticed
Who has
and
Matthew
messages
McConaughey's
about
phone
mass
number?
shooting in
Hey,
the
what
town
was
I
the,
was
oh,
born
you know what?
in against
Interstellar
what
was a
was
great
possible.
movie. Shout
Yeah,
out
it
to
was.
Matthew in
It was
that
a shock. I
movie.
drove
Yeah,
home.
that
sure.
movie
Hugged my
was good.
children.
It was a good movie.
Tighter
For
and
sure.
longer than the night
Christopher
before.
Nolan's the great director.
And then the reality of what had happened. That
But what the
day.
fuck you doing
I
up on
was
stage,
born in
Matt?
the
Like,
second-
like,
So the next morning, Camilla and myself, we loaded up the truck and we drove to Uvalde.
Look,
When we
man,
arrived a few hours later.
this is the reality
truck.
we're in now.
I gotta tell you,
Reality
even
over
from
and
the
over and
inside
over
of our
again.
vehicle,
they said,
you-
let's
you
get
can-
a
you can
big
feel the
voice.
shock.
That's what I was thinking,
Everybody.
Natasha. That's what I was
You
thinking,
feel the
Natasha.
pain.
This is the answer right here.
The denial, the disillusion,
why.
anger.
For sure.
Everybody
pain,
sat around the
sadness,
table and
loss of
said,
lives,
Matthew McConaughey,
dream
that's the
call.
guy.
Right.
We saw ministries.
I'm telling
we
you,
saw first
Vin
responders,
Armani
counselors,
has been
cooks,
saying
families
this is what
trying to grieve
Matthew McConaughey was going to
without
be
being on the front page.
Yep.
3 years ago.
I remember
You
talking
see how
about it
she
with Vin.
slanted to show the shoes? Her knees were
Countless
slanted
morticians
off
Yeah.
so they could like press
who
the
hadn't
like
slept
shit.
since the
Nobody get no
massacre
fuck
the
about
day
no
before.
shoes.
They've
Niggas
been
died.
24/7 trying to
People
handle so many
perished.
bodies at once.
Y'all showing off
They're
shoes.
not even heirs.
Little innocent bodies who had
What
their
the hell, no
entire lives
Jordans?
still yet to live. And that is there that we met two
Damn,
grieving
I was
parents,
liking
Ryan
Converse. You know, I'm a little
and
flat
Jessica
foot,
Ramirez.
you know.
Okay, so here it is.
Their 10-year-old daughter, Alethea.
Pulling the heartstrings.
She was one of the 19 children that were killed the day before. Now, Alethea,
Chosen on
her dream
purpose.
was to
For
go to
one,
art
it's got
school in
statism
Paris
in
and
it, and
share her
she
art
never will
with the world.
graduate.
Ryan and Jessica were eager to share Alethea's art.
They're
with
going to
us.
show her
And said if
artwork.
we
Wait,
share
wait.
it, that somehow
Wait, listen to this
maybe
part.
that would make Alethea smile in heaven.
Yeah.
They told us that showing someone else Alethea's art would in some way keep her alive. Now, this particular drawing is a self-portrait, all right, of Alethea drawing with her friend in heaven looking down on her, drawing the very same picture. Her mother said of this drawing, she said, you know, we never really talked to her about heaven before, but somehow she knew.
Using
Alethea
religion.
was 10 years old.
Never talked about heaven before, but somehow she knew.
Her father,
Like,
Ryan,
what?
this man was steady. He was uncommonly together and calm. When a frazzled friend of his came up and said, "How are you so calm?"
Yeah, Natasha,
I'd
I'm
be
with
going
you. Like
crazy.
the
Ryan told me, he said, "No, you
the
wouldn't.
fact that people don't recognize that he's an
No, you
actor
wouldn't. You'd be strong
Right.
for your wife and
and that
kids
he's
because if
acting.
they see you go crazy, that will not help this."
Why should we listen to Matthew McConaughey?
Because his name's in the Bible.
He got me a full-time line job,
So's mine.
stringing power lines from pole to pole.
If I have that
And
kind of
every
power,
day since
woohoo!
landing that well-paying full-time job, he reminded his daughter Alethea. He said, "Girl,
I'm envious
Daddy
of those
gonna
glasses
spoil
fitting
you
on his
now."
face so nice.
Told her every single night. He said,
Look at him.
"Daddy's gonna take you to
Right.
SeaWorld one day."
Yeah, this is more pulling. This will never happen. None of
Yes.
this will ever. This
Right,
is
right.
all.
This is all telling you like these are all the dreams that are never gonna materialize.
She did not get to go to SeaWorld.
The other thing is too, like it gives a certain.
also
They,
met-
he talks about heaven, but then
Yeah.
goes to
And
this like
another
finality, as though like her life is
mom
over
said,
forever, and that you don't live on beyond this.
Right.
Rodriguez.
It's very atheistic, actually.
I made that
in
he
that
wanted to
sense.
be a marine
Like, did
biologist.
people forget
She was
actors
already
know
in
how to
contact
cry?
with Corpus Christi
Like the
University,
roots?
and then
What the fuck?
Bro.
college enrolled.
Bro,
9 years old. Made
go
that
watch
he
Interstellar
carried the
and
environment
watch
so
his
strong
brilliant
that
acting in
any
that.
actor
And
must
Right,
be
for
sure.
sure.
He's really
Long
crying
ass
about
fucking
Murph.
movie, but great movie.
Yeah.
Made
When
that
he's
movie
crying
later.
about Murph, like Murph, don't
Murph,
go like, don't let me go
Right.
like this, Murph.
Mm-hmm.
It's the
High
same
top
thing.
Converse with a
Here's the
heart
green
she had
Converse.
hand drawn on the right toe
What
because
the
they
fuck?
represented her love
Yeah.
of nature. Camilla's got these shoes.
Camilla's
Please
got
show
the
these
shoes.
please.
Yeah, look at the shoes.
Wear these
Look
every
at her.
day.
She's got the shoes.
Green Converse with a heart.
They just went to
Right toe.
materialistic. Like, all right, let's just change it
These
from.
are the same green Converse.
So you remember when the Rams won the
Turned
Super
out to
Bowl
be the only clear evidence that could
Mhm.
identify
with their blue and
her
yellow?
as the shooter.
Yeah, for sure.
Ukrainian flag colors? Guess who's? Look at that. Do you see the flash of anger there?
They wrote a letter
Hang on just a second. Let me go back for a second here on this. We're gonna go back.
about that.
It lived for
See
the
that?
last 2 minutes.
Maybe they wrote a letter.
How about that? Like they could only identify. Let's go back. I'm sorry. Just follow me here. That's all they could identify her with.
Right toe. These are the
Listen.
same green Converse on her feet that turned out to be the only clear evidence that could identify her after the shooting. How about that?
Not to mention that she might be fucking alive if the pigs had done their goddamn job.
Yeah.
Can help someone accomplish her
Well, but
dream.
the thing is, like he taps into this anger, like on that moment, like and like
Transition.
we're really like you that was the only way you could identify her. Like, what was he using, a bazooka? I mean,
Yeah, it was a disintegration ray.
And I want to like we started this thing off, but in case you're joining us late, like I want to like extend compassion to the people, the families who lost people, to the kids who lost their lives. It's tragic. What we're talking about here is how we are being manipulated by this man right here,
and they are directly manipulating
and the water.
our reality.
Most of the time, I will be in a lab. Sometimes I will be on TV.
Well, anyway, what I was getting into was the Warriors are in the NBA Finals. Their colors are blue and gold, just like the Ukraine flag, just like the Rams. But guess who wears green shoes? The Boston Celtics, their opponent in the NBA Finals. So are we about to witness a handing of the baton to the new color?
Dude.
Even half-eaten food on her plate. They said,
Gotta throw in the
What flag
occult
is green?
symbolism, dude. What was
What
that?
flag is green? What flag?
Brazil.
Got a lot of green.
Smiling through tears, her
I
family
don't know.
told us how Ellie loved to embrace. Said she was the biggest hugger in the family.
Nigeria?
Now, Ellie was born
We
Catholic,
invade
but
Nigeria
Or
next.
it may not be
the last couple of years.
It may not be.
No, this will just be like the color that people start. You know, now it's going to be like a green box. You can put a green square on Instagram.
Hey, they're working their way. They're working their way around the rainbow.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, perfect month to do it around the rainbow.
The verse was from Deuteronomy.
See, and this is
5.
he's going to read a
Thou
Bible
shalt
verse.
love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, and with all thy might.
Somebody President Bush him already.
Was becoming.
Somebody what?
Or green car. President Bush's shit.
Service on a Wednesday night.
Oh, gonna throw in the green Converses at Bush.
Been there with
Nah,
a very
Matt.
love story.
Oh,
Fuck
yeah.
off the stage,
Teacher
bro.
named Irma and her husband Joe. What a great family this was. This was an
So this is an interesting story. This teacher, Irma,
their family members in the living room.
Bill Pulte,
Along with
who's
the
a
kids, they were
like
kids
he's
were
the guy
23,
on Twitter, like
19, 13.
raises money for
They
people,
shared all
and
these
he goes and
stories
like
about Irma and Joe
he's like,
serving
hey,
the
I'm going to give this
community
much
and
money
host
to
all these
whoever.
parties
Anyway,
and how Irma and Joe
he
were
tried to
finally
raise
getting their
$30,000
together when they soon
for this
retired.
lady and her family, and they raised like $2.5 million in like a couple of days. And like nobody's even said anything about it.
Who her family said,
But
went above and
instead,
beyond and
as
just
one of the
couldn't
people in the
say no
Bitcoin Mystery
to
School
any kind of teaching.
Telegram was talking about,
Joe
like
had been
instead they
commuting
send
2
Matthew
grand from
McConaughey
work 70 miles
to
away
climb
in Del Rio for
to
years.
climb the bodies to stand
Together
on
they
top
were
and
the glue
grandstand
of the
for all of
family.
us.
For sure.
Both worked
And-
overtime to support.
One of the things
Kids.
that people don't get is he's done this a million
Irma
times.
even worked every
Mhm.
summer when
He's been
school was
what
out.
has he been? A coach. He's been
The
the
money
leader
she
of a
made 2
football
summers
team.
ago
Mhm.
All he's doing is the same shit that they do
house.
on these movies.
Yeah.
Let's go get them.
The money she made
Right.
last
Oh
summer.
yeah, no, he's got the great
Besides the house.
persona
This
of
summer's
delivering a soothing
Look,
and inspiring, like a movement. Like Matthew McConaughey is the voice behind of a movement that he could like pull people.
absolutely.
Joe
He's the way I described it is women want him, men want to be
literally died
him,
of heartache
and he's so agreeable
the very
that
next
he can
day
feed you your own death
when he had a heart attack.
to applause.
What do you say?
Yeah.
Like he'll
He will have
For
you
sure.
jumping off a cliff for him. He is the Jim Jones of this, like it's like, hey
Never got
guys, I need you to drink this Kool-Aid. All right.
For sure.
We also
And-
met a cosmetologist. She was well versed in mortuary makeup That's
Yeah,
the
see, and
task
this
of
you got
making
to
the victims
he has
appear
to
as peaceful
paint
and
this
natural as
disgusting,
possible
grim picture
for
of
their own
reconstructing,
feelings.
bullet-ridden
Our
faces and
bodies
stuff.
were very different. They needed much more than makeup to be presentable.
It's called
They needed
wax. I have a bunch
extensive
of it.
restoration.
I'm not trying to make light of
Why?
people's deaths. I'm
Yeah,
not.
Marcus
Used
Marcus
large
actually
stiff
is a
wounds.
funeral services man. So like,
Right.
15 multiple.
Yeah. The thing is,
Most of the
I
bodies
have
so
constructed
mutilated
an entire face
that
out
only
of
DNA test
out of funeral
ring
wax.
converse
They do this all the time.
could identify.
yeah, car accidents. It
Yeah.
happens.
Many children were left not only dead but
Again,
Also,
alive.
again, not to downplay the kids and the tragedy,
yes,
but it is,
counselors
Anyway, go ahead, Nico.
Are going to be needed in Uvalde
The school
for
catch on fire
a long
or
time.
some shit.
Counselors are needed.
Like,
Yeah, right.
How
These mass shooters
can you not identify an individual
I was
in a
told by
school
many
shooting?
that
We all know who Rachel is from Rachel's Challenge.
it takes a good year before people.
Well,
even
no, that,
understand
but like,
what to do
who was at the school and who wasn't, and you know who's still alive and who's not. I mean, at that point, now, yeah, like figuring out who's who and everything. But
A lifetime's
it's
not going to heal those wounds.
anyway. There's a lot of this stuff that just wants to make it seem like it's
You know
like they got
every one
the
of these
school got
parents
blown
wanted
up.
what they
you know?
asked for.
Well,
But every parent
and
separately
again, they're
expressed
trying to
in their
make.
own way
I think
the
Uncle
way
Hotep said it best today when they were talking about
they want their
you know,
children's dreams
that-
to live on. That they want their
Sorry,
children's
I
dreams
lost
to
that thought because
continue
this idiot has got me
to
he's so
accomplish something
irritated.
About the
after
dreams.
they are gone.
Yeah.
Hey man,
They
you
want
can say
to
he lulled
make
you. You can say it.
their
It's-
Oh,
own
dude, this
life
dude doesn't lull me.
matter.
He pisses me off because
No,
I
but-
see
but
him
it's-
for what he is, an
but listen,
actor.
So many
It's
people,
but yes, but
families of the
I
deceased,
have to be
mothers,
honest though. Like
fathers,
it's
sisters,
still,
brothers,
even though you
Texas
know what he's
Rangers,
up there,
hunters,
what he's up there
Border
for,
and
it
responsible
still
gun
pulls you
owners who
in.
won't
Like
give
it's
up their
still
Second
like
Amendment right to bear
he's
arms.
that
And
his
you know what they all
charisma is top
Right.
notch.
We want secure and safe schools, and we want gun
Right,
laws
and-
that won't make it so easy for the bad guys to get these damn guns.
How? Tell me
Yeah,
how.
the gun laws thing is so stupid, and
What's
and
on the table?
nobody wants to talk about the fact that gun-free zones are one of
We
the
need to
biggest
invest in mental
problems.
health care.
Yeah.
I was about to
Every
say,
time.
like,
We need safer
didn't
schools.
this occur? Like,
We need to
majority
restore
of shootings
sensationalized
happen in
coverage.
gun-free areas.
Right.
Yeah,
We need to
So
restore our
if we
family
want to
values.
increase security,
We need to restore
why not
our
increase the
American
people who can
values.
defend against people who've got guns instead of
And-
wait for the police officers? Because
To
look,
To
I
stand
know,
outside and hold
I
people
know
down.
there's an old man
ownership.
with a
We
Floyd
need
and
background
a
checks.
mug, a
We
concealing
need to
carry
raise the minimum
on his
age
porch with the
to
shotty, waiting for a young clown to walk out.
to-
There's plenty of them.
We need
Yeah.
a waiting period for
For
those
sure.
rifles. We need.
He
red
just said
flag
that you need to
laws
have
and consequences for
red
those
flag
who abuse
laws.
them.
Red flag laws.
These are
That's the
reasonable,
big
practical,
that's the get that they want here
Okay.
because they've already started
Your
to
nation, states,
categorize
communities,
people as
schools,
domestic
and homes
terrorists for if
Right.
they put some
Responsible
COVID
gun
misinformation
owners
on the internet.
are fed
Right.
up
So if you ever said like, "Hey, I'm not sure about these
by
stabbies,"
some deranged
oh
individuals.
well, guess what? You don't get to
These
own any
regulations
firearms
are
because
not
you
a
might
step
be a
back.
wacko. Like this
They're a
is
step forward.
if people
for
think
civil
that slippery
society
slopes
and-
don't exist.
And the Second Amendment.
I
That's why
realize
we
the
hit up Marcus
slippery,
in the black
slippery
market.
Look, it's a secure
yeah,
law.
I realize the
Yeah.
slippery slope fallacy,
Hell no.
is
But
exists.
people are hurting.
But there's a reason why, like people who
Families
have
are,
been called.
parents are.
There's a reason why they call it
And look,
Hotep's been
it's-
told you.
it's divided.
Right.
It's because
Our country
some of this shit got called out
is
years ago, and like
For sure.
I don't remember who it was. It was talking about it
one that we
before.
agree on more
Papa
than we
maybe.
don't.
One of them was talking about
It really is.
Behold a Pale Horse.
Mhm.
But
That
this should be
it was Papa Hotep.
a
Papa
nonpartisan issue.
Hotep.
This should
Yeah, Behold a
not
Pale
be
Horse.
a
Bill
partisan issue.
Cooper was talking
There
about
is
this
not a
shit
Democratic or
like
Republican
30
value
years ago,
one
40 years
single
ago.
act of these shooters. Not.
And I got for sure
People
We
with
in
all
power
of this.
have failed to act. So we're asking
Again, it comes. Dave Smith said
And
this
Matthew,
earlier, and
you
this time I
ask
do remember. He
yourself.
said, "How does any of this say
Can
rely
both
on the
sides
police
rise above.
for your protection?
Can
How
both
did any of
sides
this?
get beyond the political problem
This is
at
what we're
hand
dealing
and
with the
admit
police."
that we have a life preservation problem on our hands.
Yes.
So we got a chance right now to reach for and to grasp a higher ground
Love the thin yellow
above
line.
our
Chickens.
political affiliations. a chance to make.
You saw that meme where somebody had like the police when there's $200 worth of marijuana inside, and they're like kicking down the door,
Right.
battering rams, and there's 8 of them, and they're all armed to the teeth, like SWAT,
Right.
going in there, and it's like
One gun.
cops when there's one gunman, shooting up a school for an hour, and they're all just standing outside, like huddling together, like talking.
Yeah, Jim.
Right.
Do they still got them sprinkles over there?
Yeah,
Right.
right?
Party affiliations.
Jeez, man.
Enough with the
So-
counter punching.
And he's also saying
protocol did they follow?
I'm going to bring everybody together.
Yeah, well, he's saying. So I'm gonna kill it now because we're done. So what he's talking about is like that. This is somehow like about a party or something like that, and it's not. This isn't party politics or anything like that. This is something very different. This is, do you believe in people's fundamental rights or not?
Right.
And do you think that maybe there are some people who are not affiliated with the Republicans or the Democrats who would like for people to leave us the fuck alone?
Right.
And would like to be allowed to just protect our families. And if you look at what happened in that situation, the thin yellow line again, what did they do? They stopped the parents from going in to save their children, and they didn't do shit to stop the killer. And the only reason he got stopped was because some of those parents were Border Patrol, and when they got there, they said, to hell with this shit. It's over now. We're going in there and we're ending this. And at that point, it was too late, sadly, for some of those families. And that's the takeaway from this, is that it's not that we don't care about what happened or how it happened or who was lost or anything like that. It's the fact that what happened could have been avoided or at least mitigated. But the people who were supposed to prevent and mitigate it did not do what they were, what the stolen funds that they used to fund their salary was designed for. So I got one more thing I want to show, because this is why I wanted to bring up this Matthew McConaughey thing, is because I want people to realize that this is what his reason for being brought there was. What Nicco was asking earlier, who the fuck is Matthew McConaughey? Like, why is he not? I know he didn't mean who is he. He meant like, who is he to be an expert on this topic? All he is an actor who happened to be there. Whatever the reasons are for why.
Has he made like a citizen's arrest or anything? Like
no,
right?
Nothing. So here's the reason. It's all can be summed up in this one tweet. I quoted it earlier today. No, I do not believe he is for gun confiscation. He's had a relatively conservative record. He's not part of a Democrat plot. He's a guy speaking his mind about something that happened in his backyard. That was that's his raison d'etre right there. And I don't know if it's going to let me show this other tab. No, it's not. All right, that kind of sucks. I wish I could just switch between tabs, but apparently I have to stop this one and then share another one, because the narratives are starting to leak out. So here's one that I caught earlier today. It says, praise for the shooter and call for copycats is growing online. Gee, I wonder who's doing that. Maybe they accidentally put who's spreading those ideas in the picture. Oh, look, it's an FBI agent. Huh.
Who seem to be involved in every mass shooting,
bro,
in one
like
way or another.
It's uncanny how they all seem to like already know about these guys. They've already got a book on them. They already have like been in contact with them in some cases, and in a few cases, they have actually been the ones who have radicalized them
and planned.
Right, and helped plan the thing and said, "Hey, you know what you should do? You should go shoot up a school." And then they're like, "What, really?" They're like, yeah, I got some guns, by the way. You want to, anyway, like, where did this dude is supposedly poor, and he's got like a $2,000 rifle, a couple of them, I think.
Hey, that's his pride and joy.
So, for sure.
So then there was this dude from Salon.com. When Ronald Reagan's racism saved lives, armed black men meant immediate gun control. Now, I read this whole shitbag of an article, but I thought it was kind of funny that they decided to let their racism out today because they deleted this tweet. As you can see at the bottom, it says this tweet has been deleted. They switched it up quick once everybody went in on them.
Right.
But I posted it. I was like, shot chaser. Here it is. And this was because that's what Maj says all the time. Like this is just further evidence that all gun control is racist, because when they really have an opportunity to show their true colors, the racism slips out under their dress. So there you have it. That's it. I'm done talking on that topic, but we can get into the rest of it.
Well, people might wonder, what does this have to do with reality? Because that is the topic for the night.
Right.
Absolutely fucking everything. They are creating a reality that they want you to believe. These are black magicians. These are black, and I don't mean African descent.
Marcus's racism is coming out.
I know.
We need Salon to write an article on Marcus.
Right, for sure.
When Marcus's racism stopped bad magic.
Right.
So I'm working with a racist and a Fed. Whew,
Yeah.
this is turning out to be a fire one.
I know. What are you thinking, Nicco?
Man.
But no, these are black occultists. These are evil people who are absolutely doing rituals to change reality. That's what you do with spirituality. I hate to tell people that don't understand that when you are asking God, whether you call it a spell or you call it a prayer, when you are asking that God to change something in your life, you're asking that God to change reality.
Yep.
So this is happening all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And what we have to do is oppose it. What we have to do is offer solutions, offer realities, pray, do rituals, do whatever the hell you do for good things.
Mm-hmm.
Do it. Get out there. Pray. You know, you can say, oh, prayer doesn't, you know, I've seen people that go out and they're like, you know, all this person did was pray for this. Well, thank you. And, you know, that's not the point, you fucking moron. One, you're trying to give somebody some sympathy.
Right.
One. And number two, you are trying to change reality. You are trying to make that person, through whatever thing you're trying to do, have a better life. We need to be doing that. We need to be altering realities. Whatever the reality that you want to have, manifest it. I want to be independent. I want the government out of my shit. I want to be able to live my life. So I'm going to do everything I can to manifest that. Was I so striking that y'all didn't have anything else
Well, I
to
was just
say?
giving Nicco an opportunity, because Nicco tends to like hang back and wait.
I was frozen.
Oh, okay.
I was gonna say, like, I know we forgot. Well, they forgot because I'm not they, but they legit say there's witches working in our government with, like, earlier this year or 2 years ago.
That's right. They sure did.
You got witches and warlocks working on your medicines, and y'all don't even peep it. And it's like,
right.
Even though there's a veil to it and people don't understand the what do you say, the unknowns, it doesn't hurt to just, like, be open to it, because you don't know it,
Right.
you know. And that's what, like, people aren't perceiving right now, is they're not paying attention to details. And then when you bring up the details, because details are just miniature little facts that you see, nobody wants to, like, adhere to them. It's like real fucked. It's like messed up how people don't adhere to the little mini facts that are being presented, and therefore you're living a fallacy as it is, because since you don't live in the reality of truth, you're already living in a false reality itself.
For sure.
Mm-hmm. So on that note, we talked about Ephesians 6:12. If I may, I would like to read Ephesians 11 through, well, I don't know how far I'm going to get, but I'll stop when it's time to stop. Because there's more than just that one verse, right? Like that's the verse that tells you, like, who the enemy is. But what we need is the rest of it that kind of surrounds that to know what we're supposed to do with that. Because remember, what are we about here? Solutions.
Yes, sir.
Be clothed. This is Ephesians chapter 6, verse 11. Be clothed in the armor of God, so that you may be able to stand against the treachery of the devil. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers, against the directors of this world of darkness, against the spirits of wickedness in high places. Because of this, take up the armor of God, so that you may be able to withstand the evil day and remain perfect in all things. Therefore, stand firm, having been girded about your waist with truth, and having been clothed with the breastplate of justice, and having feet which have been shod by the preparation of the gospel of peace. In all things, take up the shield of faith, with which you may be able to extinguish all the fiery darts of the most wicked one. And take up the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God. Through every kind of prayer and supplication, pray at all times in spirit, and so be vigilant with every kind of earnest supplication for all the saints, and also for me. This is St. Paul writing to the Ephesians, or the Christians in Ephesus, I should say. And also for me, so that words may be given to me as I open my mouth with faith and make known the mystery of the gospel, in such a manner that I may dare to speak exactly as I ought to speak, for I act as an ambassador in chains for the gospel. Now, so that you may also know the things that concern me and what I'm doing. Okay, then that's where I'll stop there.
All right, I got to dig into that, Chad.
Yeah,
because
go ahead.
Love it.
Yeah.
All that is awesome.
That's why I wanted to read the rest of it, because it's not just about 6:12; it's the rest of it.
Right. But why I love it is because I know magical symbolism, and for one, the primary weapon of the magician is not a wand. People want to make it the wand. It is not. It is a sword. The sword is the primary weapon of any magician, and it is particularly the weapon that is used against demons and against evil entities. It is a weapon of defense, but only but it is what can damage the enemy. The crown is an illusion, or the helmet is an allusion to the crown, and in the crown
allusion,
is
not illusion, right?
Yes,
yeah.
Correct. Allusion to the crown, which is which is another magical symbolism that symbolizes your link to God. The breastplate is an allusion both to Hebraic and Jewish tradition that generally has in the middle of their breastplate, I believe it's an amethyst. Could be wrong about that, but I think it's an amethyst that's in there. That and that the purpose of that is as a protective device or an amulet so that you cannot be penetrated. And the particular symbolism actually comes from Egypt. One of the things that's going on in that particular fashion is they are lining out for those that don't understand that Christianity is a magical religion, but it is. They're lining out the weapons you need to set up your temple, and in order to do spiritual combat. That's what they're doing. So excellent, and
that's why I said, like, it's you gotta know the right weapons to fight the enemy.
Correct.
Otherwise, if you're using the weapons that the enemy wants you to use and they end up backfiring on you,
yeah,
it's not really helpful.
Right. And we need to be very careful at what weapons we choose, and because we are in charge of our realities, whether people get it or not. We are imbued by God with his essence, that peace of God that comes with being a human being. That's what makes us different. I love animals. I love plants. I love lots of things. And I can make an argument that certain animals have intelligence and all that kind of stuff. But what makes humanity different is our ability and knowledge of reality. Like my dog, or I don't have a dog, but a dog may be aware that and be able to process commands, and they may be able to process words and things like that, and they may communicate, but they do not have the depth of understanding of what our reality is. They don't have that. Humanity has that greater power, and we need to access the reality that God is within us, and we have the power to change reality. Now, there are two sides to that. One, don't say stupid shit. Don't create dumb crap with your words. Watch what you say. Watch what you bring into your life. And I'm guilty of this too. There are lots of times when I'm like, I always fucking fail, or I always, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So stop doing that shit. That's number one. And number two, focus down on what you can change. Some of it's going to be small. To use an example of how you can change reality, many years ago, I was having financial problems. I did a small ritual. I invoked the Archangel Sandalphon. All I did was make a disc for Sandalphon. He's an archangel. He's got a particular, all I did was make it and bless it and ask for help. And within hours, I had a job that paid well. So we need to start focusing on what we can change. And I'm not just talking about magical stuff. If you can grow a garden, do so. Change your reality. Change if you're worried that you're going to starve to death, grow some goddamn tomatoes. They're not that hard to grow.
People just lazy. Their grandparents didn't show them how to get down on hands and knees, and play in the dirt. Like go back to the old days. It'll make you feel youthful. It's rejuvenating to play to play in the dirt. It's most definitely grounding. It's most definitely more helpful to the individual than the individual realizes it, even though you're preparing yourself food.
Right, for sure. And it goes beyond that. And one of the things that we talked about when planning this particular show is that there are a lot of people that believe different stuff and stuff that I don't necessarily believe in. I don't believe the world's flat. I just don't. I've seen way too many proofs that it's not. Why the fuck does it matter if somebody thinks that the world is flat? Great. If they want to line up and, try to set people free on the flat earth, great. Line up over here. That's where the line starts. Let's go. I don't give a fuck. Whatever reality you believe is real, great. That you certainly don't want your kids to grow up in a shitty ass fucking reality. You want them to live with peace and harmony and goodness. And it seems to me that it is becoming more and more obvious where evil is coming from in this world.
Yeah. All right. So with that being said, this is a prayer. I'm not going to say this prayer is like defunct or anything like that, but this used to be prayed at the end of Mass every Sunday, and it kind of went away. It needs to come back, but we can still pray it, whether it's officially endorsed or whatever on a routine basis or not. It is the prayer to Saint Michael the Archangel. And it's a very simple prayer, but it's really deep. Saint Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle. Be our protection against the wickedness and snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray. And do thou, O Prince of the heavenly host, by the power of God, cast into hell Satan and all the evil spirits who prowl about the world, seeking the ruin of souls.
Wow.
Because that's the part, and that's what I wanted to go into all this, is as tragic as that was, and as all of these shootings or anything else, the wars, all this stuff is all terrible and tragic. And even some of the stuff that we were talking about before we came on the air about the stuff with like taking kids to drag hour at these clubs, like how in the hell are they doing this stuff in the first place? Like you're letting kids into a place that kids don't belong. Like I remember, you used to try to get into like a PG-13 movie when you weren't 13 yet, and you get in trouble. Like now it's just like, no, we're going to let drag queens dance half naked in front of 6-year-olds. Like what the fuck's going on? Anyway.
And to be clear to people, we don't give a damn if somebody's transgender or not. We don't give a fuck. The bottom line is, don't teach sex to kids.
Yeah, heterosexual sex or like that's something for the parents to figure out when it's appropriate for their kids to learn about where babies come from and all that good stuff. But anyway, what I was getting at was that all of this stuff, all of these tragedies, the physical toll and the toll on humanity, whether it's destruction of property or destruction of human life, is tragic. But the real prize, and this is what we have this thing on with Men of Order that I do every day, where I find like the man of the day. And yesterday it was Prince. It was his birthday yesterday, and he had a very important, very profound quote when he was receiving, I think it was like at the Video Music Awards or something like that, where he said, be careful about how you approach computers and the internet and all this stuff. He's like, it's okay to get on the computer, but don't let the computer get on you. It's okay to use the computer. Don't let the computer use you. And he said, there's a war going on right now. The battlefield is in the mind, and the prize is the soul. Hey, and that's the thing. And that's why I read that prayer to St. Michael the Archangel, is because that's the prize. The prize is souls. Uh-huh. And when we are, and that's why I have to be really careful, because it's easy to go down these rabbit holes and to be all focused on like who did this and the cops and the this and the, and yes, all that stuff's important. But resetting yourself and reminding yourself that, like, again, it's not flesh and blood. It's these powers and principalities, and you have to armor yourself and arm yourself accordingly and appropriately to combat that.
For sure. And one of the things,
lest your soul be ruined as well.
Right. And the one thing that people miss often is that hell is not fire and brimstone. That's bullshit. Hell is the absence of God. Hell is where you are without God. That is what hell is. And we do not know what it is. People have tried doing pain and all this. That's not it. The absence of God is the absence of goodness. We cannot understand that because we live in a duality-based world. Our reality has good and evil in it. So the goal of these people who are absolutely trying to manipulate reality is they want only a physical realm. They have made, this is what Aleister Crowley called the Black Brothers. These are the people that only believe in a physical reality, and they're trying to make this reality only physical by neglecting and by denying anything at all that is spiritual. And even if those spiritual ideas are the mind, because they have absolutely given up and these are the same people that are willing to kill anybody because they do not believe that there is a consequence.
Why do you think they have the Oculus Rift for what you call it, the metaverse now?
Metaverse, yeah.
So they're most definitely working on stripping you of your physical possessions and going straight to your mental, but it's all a mental battle. Like it plays hand in hand because somebody's willing to, digitally sell their freezer to somebody else.
Right.
And then they get look at my freezer I got. Bro, you can't even touch it. It's not even running your bill up, fam.
Well, I don't know, man. They've got technology. Amber and I watched something last night. They've got technology where they may be able to synthesize. It's coming soon. Synthesize touch through computer.
Yeah, they've most definitely.
What you said, Nicco, about the metaverse and everything, that's like literally what Prince was warning against. You are putting the internet on yourself.
Correct.
You're not just getting on the internet. You're putting the internet on your face.
Yeah. And
saying, take over.
Yeah, definitely. Check this out too, because this is fun. Remember we were talking about the Black Brothers a moment ago, right? Nicco just talked about the mind and they want you all in your mind and all in your thoughts and all of that, right? I hate to tell people this, but the mind isn't the be all end all. And in Hebrew, the word for knowledge is da'ath, which is called the abyss. Da'ath is the thing you overcome to get to God, according to the mystical teachings of the Jewish people. You have to get past your mind. It's why Aristotle
Mm.
said you cannot, and I'm messing up the quote, but you can't, if you just have the mind and don't have the heart, then you don't have any truth at all. And because God is beyond the mind.
That's crazy. I was just talking to the priest at the Orthodox Church Sunday about this, about something that, so like on the Royal Path podcast, they were talking about like ecumenism and like the filioque, which is like this, there's this divide, I guess, between like the Orthodox Church that they, in the creed, in like the original creed, it was that the Holy Spirit proceeds from the Father, and with the Father and the Son, he is glorified. Whereas in the Roman Catholic Church, he proceeds from the Father and the Son, and with the Father and the Son, he is adored and glorified. That little subtle difference is something that, like, when you convert to Orthodoxy, you have to renounce that what is described as a heresy. So I was asking him about that because I was like, well, I don't know, kind of, because it's kind of at odds with some of the stuff that like Evan, my brother, has talked about with like how we image God's likeness in the relationship between man, woman, and child, and how it sort of mirrors the Trinity in a certain way, and that the love between the Father and the beloved becomes so powerful that it can become another person, right? And I'm going through all this stuff, and the priest is like, he's like, I mean, I understand that, but like, I think that it's one of those things that like there was an attempt to try to, like, it was in response to the Arian heresy where Arius said that like Jesus wasn't God, wasn't divine, tried to deny the divinity of Jesus. And so like it was almost like there was this like response that said, well, we'll say that the Holy Spirit proceeds from both of them. That way it puts Jesus in his divine place a little bit more substantially and everything. And he's like, but really, this is like one of those intellectual discussions that I just wonder how really important it is. Now it is a heresy that you have to like renounce or whatever. But he said we need to move from here down to here.
Yeah, for sure.
This stuff. And I was just like, oh man, yeah, you're right. And that's as I get more and more, as I follow that path, that back towards the roots of my faith, more towards orthodoxy, I start to realize that that's more of where the focus is it's less on this scholarly sort of legalistic thing that I think a lot of Roman Catholics can fall into, myself included, for a long time, and more into a relationship. But it doesn't do the opposite, which is, and I have tons of Protestant friends and everything, and I'm not trying to start a fight or anything like that, but like there was kind of a throwing the baby out with the bathwater thing with Protestantism, where they're like, all the things that the Catholics believe is wrong, and so Mary's just a woman, and I'm like, I don't know, like, because I have relatives that like they've like argued with me
Bible
about
would argue,
and I'm like, what?
I said the Bible. I said the Bible, but the Bible would argue with that.
Yeah, so I'm like, all right, so you ask me to pray for you, but you won't ask the Mother of God to pray for you? That's kind of weird.
Yeah,
I'm just, but that's just me. Like I'm,
yeah. He wouldn't go to Jesus as God, or Jesus is mommy.
Well, she's our mom too. That's the thing.
She might have some pull.
Like yeah, right. Well, that's the thing too. And I was trying to explain to this guy one time, that like it's not uncommon for when you're going to the king, or that a lot of times you go to his mom, you go to the queen, and look at like the first miracle at Cana. Like they go to Mary and they're like, hey, we're out of wine. And she's like, hey, look, man,
I got this guy.
I know it's not your time yet, but yeah, no, she doesn't say I got this guy. No, she goes to Jesus and she's like, hey, they're out of wine. And he's like, it's not my time yet. And she's like, I know it's not your time yet, but they're out of wine. And he's like, he's like, do whatever, anyway, it's just, it just becomes this, this opportunity to, but where did they go? They went through her to intercede.
For sure.
So anyway, it's just,
of course they would.
Yeah. But the point of that was more about this going from the mind to the heart and less about this scholarly, like, let's get all the facts straight and let's
God didn't give a
It's
shit
a human
about
thing
facts.
to do. It's a human thing to do, to try to draw a box around God so that we can contain him and
Good
hold
luck.
him. And the way that we contain him is by inviting him to take residence in our soul and in our heart. And the only way we do that is by entering into a relationship with him, an intimate relationship with him, and not by all the legalism.
For sure. And a couple things I want to dig into. One of the things that you're talking about is love. And when we say love, often we think, of like love between a man and a woman. That's not the kind of love we're talking about. That kind of love is wonderful and required.
Father, son.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's not even father-son. It is not a relationship that we can understand. It is a relationship between a creator and the creation.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the closest thing we could probably come to is, how proud you are when you make something.
All right. I'll be right
I-
back. Shit. Just a second. Go ahead. Continue
Sure.
for the audience. I'll
Yeah.
be back.
But the second thing that I want to get into, and this goes back to Matthew McConaughey and his green sneakers that he found. When we move backwards towards that thing, don't get me wrong, the Venusian love, that kind of love and that kind of relation is important. And steering towards, protecting children, doing all of that stuff's important. But what we have to do is we have to come from a real love, from a love of compassion and goodness and natural law. It is part of a good creation. It's part of a good creation to find yourself in better circumstances. And when Matthew McConaughey brought the green shoes out, the first thing I thought of, unfortunately, was that backwards movement. The color of Venus is green. And one of the clues, because I look for symbolism in everything, Venus's color in Kabbalistic terms is green. That's Venus. And but Venus is kind of crazy. And for one, and people miss.
That's why women are from Venus.
Right. Well, hey.
Remember that?
I'm
book
not gonna
back in the
agree with
day?
you.
Women-
Yeah, I
men are
do.
from
I
Mars
do.
and women are from Venus. I'm like, oh,
Sure.
that's,
But I'm gonna make it worse, dude. I'm about to kill it.
Natasha's in the building. She knows what we're talking about.
Right. But I'm about to make it
Love you,
worse
Natasha.
because Venus, when it rises, does anyone know? I'm just curious if either one of you guys know. Do you know what Venus in Italy, while the Bible was being written, while the things that would lead to the Bible were being written, do you know what Venus is called when it is in the morning? Anybody know?
No.
I'm sorry, you cut out when you were explaining the last half.
Sure, I was talking about Venus and how
in
we
Italy?
need to. Yeah,
in Italy,
during the
but
Roman
what was
during the Roman Empire. Do you know what Venus was called in the morning? I gave you a clue in this.
that bitch was a war goddess.
Yeah, you're right. She Venus has chaos.
Crazy
and death.
ass hoe. I don't know what.
No, the specific term in Latin for the Venus in the morning is Lucifer.
Yo,
Throw
right.
that into the cup, because in which its color is green. So do not get distracted by the shiny things that they are putting. No, I'm not fucking with you. That's a fact.
Green is my favorite color, and now I'm being
green's
told
cool. Green's cool, but
I lost my month, and now I'm losing my fucking color to Lucifer. What the hell?
Oh, look, hey, and look. So we're in mourning, MOURNING,
Right.
and green is the color.
Sure.
I'm just saying,
Yep. Like I said, the symbolism of the entire thing just really hit me. How it was scripted and scripted by the occultocracy, which I really like that word that Chris gave us. Chris
gave us
Rice
last week. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was
I
beautiful.
really like that because that's what we're dealing with. So
Yeah, man.
what we're basically trying to preach at people And if you don't like preaching, get fuck you, Steve. I don't care.
Say that. We love you, even if you don't like preaching, but keep coming back and listen to the preaching anyway.
I like the sermon. Go ahead.
Right.
Don't go fuck yourself.
Go ahead, Pastor.
No, I
Go
don't
ahead.
Don't go fuck yourself. Masturbation is just like procrastination. You're only fucking yourself. Wait, that's anyway.
But no,
And you're killing
seriously,
your kids, you murderer.
seriously though, what we're trying to say is take control of your reality. You are in charge. You are in charge of your reality, and the quicker you realize that, the quicker you'll turn your reality around. Yes, it is a function of God, and focus on that and aim towards it. But at the end of the day, we're in charge of the choices that we make. We're in charge of what we do with our lives. And, you know, they can threaten. The problem that these people have with religion is the reality I believe in. This isn't it. This is just a small, minuscule part of what reality will be. Probably what reality already has been. This is the trying grounds. It's important. This is not an unimportant place. It's important, but it's the trying grounds for the rest of your existence. And so don't waste that. And at the same time, when they tell you, like Mark Passio told Chris Rice in his interview, which I suggest, it's awesome. He said because he said that they offer, you know, you say $1 million or whatever it is, a job, whatever that they offer these people like Matthew McConaughey to sell their souls. They offer them that, and they tell them, but we're going to kill a random person you don't know. And what that does is it makes you buy into evil. Don't buy into evil.
Yeah, and I want to, if I may, kind of clarify, at least from my perspective, you know, something that you were talking about, like kind of taking control over your own reality or anything like that. Like and I don't think this isn't to say that I think you disagree, because I think, as you've seen, like as I've gone through this divine intimacy path with that morning meditation every day, is my recommendation, my suggestion would be that you surrender your reality to the will of God.
Sure.
Because the will of God, the more we are aligned with that, so much of what we think is what we want, our desires, our choices and things like that, is back to the screw tape letters. There's so many of these little voices, these little chirps, and these little shiny objects, like you were saying, that we have to be really, really careful and guard. And that's why, like, back to the Ephesians, talking about, you know, girding yourself with the correct armor and arming yourself with the correct weapons. Be very careful and protect your soul against these little attachments, these little distractions that keep you from that destiny that you were created for, that relationship with God that you were created for, and that infinite divine union that we were all created for, but that is subject to our free will. That's the way that that's the way God willed it. Was
sure.
This is not meant to be deterministic slavery, violence against your liberty. This is meant to be very specifically a loving relationship that is so loving that it will even love you to the point of allowing you to abandon the beloved. And recognizing that if we can surrender our will to the will of God who created us, that what he created us for, the beauty and majesty that is, will be ours.
For
and
sure.
Every time we let some of these other things get in the way of that is when we actually deprive ourselves of that.
Yeah, I actually agree. But to go back to what I was saying, what I meant was because you're right. It is about surrender, but that's still a choice.
Yeah,
That's
no,
your
yeah,
choice.
absolutely. Yeah.
That is still
It's our
you
choices.
making that decision.
Right.
And I smiled while you were giving your explanation, Chad, because majesty and beauty are a very interesting choice of words. Beauty is Tiferet is what Tiferet means in Hebrew, and majesty is a title given to Kether, which is Tiferet on the tree of life in the Hebrew mystical system is the residence of Jesus, and the beauty and the residence of God is in Kether. So
Well, that's kind of what it's about, right?
right. And
We
just
were made in His image and likeness.
for sure.
Now, whether we, almost, and I'm sorry. Look, yes, with all due respect to anybody who has, who makes whatever choices they make, I understand there's a lot of stuff that goes into all this stuff and everything. But I was saying, if we're made in the image and likeness of God, it's only through rejecting that we can do anything to kind of separate ourselves from it. It's not, contrary to what I think a lot of people think. It's less of God saying, "That's it, you can't have this anymore," and more of a rejection on our part.
Yep.
And so that's why, I go back to what Father Turbo said about the love of the fires of hell is the love of God, and it's not that it's actually designed for pain. It's that our orientation is such that we are, we talked about, he described it as when he turns on the light in his kid's bedroom when she's having a nightmare or something, or whatever, she's afraid of something. The light reveals him and comforts her and said, "Oh, I'm safe. Dad's here." If he flips that light on and someone's in the room doing something to his daughter, how do you think that light affects that person who's doing that?
Right.
It is terrifying, and they react repulsed by it. So when we think about it's the same light,
Mm-hmm.
It's the same light.
For sure.
So it's all about how are we responding to it? And if we are choosing to be no, the light is disgusting and terrible, and I don't want to be, and what you were describing, beauty and majesty is I don't want beauty and majesty. Give me more pain and suffering, then it's okay, well, why do you want to inflict pain and suffering on people? This is terrible. Anyway, I'm rambling, but you get the picture. It all comes down to what we choose to align ourselves with, and how we choose to either surrender our will and conform it to that will, and unite ourselves, or we reject it and we kind of close in on ourselves. And then it's that closing in on ourselves that breeds, because I see this in real time all the time. The more selfish I become and the more I kind of cave in on myself, the more likely and the more susceptible, I guess, I am to being upset, depressed, angry, frustrated, dissatisfied, all of these things. And when I'm actually giving of myself, and I'm actually following that tug that God is giving me to do good, that's when I'm actually at peace, and I feel like I'm in harmony with God and with the world around me.
Sure. And I think that your focus on surrender is definitely the way, if you will. It brings you, it conquers the Trinity, I guess, in a way, because it brings you to that foundation. When you begin to surrender to the will of God, then and that's really what happens. I again base a lot of my beliefs on Kabbalistic and Hebraic stuff. It's something that impacted me massively, and the foundation is called Yesod. It's where the Holy Spirit falls, and it's the first step out of Malkuth, which is the kingdom. And the first step is to surrender to the that you don't know everything, to allow yourself to begin to see past the illusions that you placed in front of yourself. And the only way you can do that is to surrender to the reality that you don't know everything.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know shit, man.
It's hard for a few people, and few people being zombies, because they all see themselves as one, apparently. So like, it's apparent that like they don't get that concept, if you will.
Yeah, for sure. And the thing is, it also matters, you know, to your reality, who you choose to surround yourself with. I've been blessed for a very long time to be hanging out with these two dudes that are above me. And I've been blessed by a beautiful wife and great kids. And, you know, it was a long, hard trek to get here. And every bit of it, everything that I have in my life was given to me because I surrendered and I gave in to God. And I said, okay, make my will what your will is. And a lot of people that call themselves Thelemites, which are the people that, and I wouldn't call myself one, but I'm influenced by Aleister Crowley and his philosophy. And they're big on will. And they miss the part of one of his extremely important books called The Vision and the Voice, where he, at the end, learns that, this is towards the end of the book, he learns that, but because will is a huge thing, the word thelema means will. And these are people that are devoted to doing their true will, to doing what they were here to do. And what we have to realize is what all of us were here to do is to find our way to God.
It's wild.
And that means being the author of your own goddamn story, and stop letting these other fucking reality TV shows and Matthew McConaughey's and Converse like dictate control. Like, don't fall for that. Like, it's a very simple thing. When they highlight it and cut to it multiple times, and it's not even the focal point. Yes, the shoes are relevant to the case, but it's not the focal point. The focal point were the individuals who lost their lives, and you cut off to too many different things. Now, pay attention to they play with your attention span, they play with your emotions, and they play with your reality. Stop it. Live your own, like, for real. Like, live your own movie. Stop living in the Truman Show, and do your own shit.
Yeah.
They had to create some icons so that people could, you know, put them in their bios and put, you know, all that. I know. I mean, for real, it's like,
yeah, for sure.
How crazy would this world be if we could create our own emojis and like send them out?
Oh, dude,
like
I'd be fucking.
That reminds me. I got it. All right, so I want to go find this this meme. But no, that's what you're talking about. There is very much, kind of, and I think was it Vin? Somebody was saying that, like, I think it was Vin, and it might have been during mystery school, where he was saying that, like, we are headed to a place where the language of the world is going to be just emojis.
Back in hieroglyphs. We're going back to hieroglyphs.
Yeah,
just
like it's just going to be like emojis, and it'll be like this universal language, back to, like, you know, Babylonian.
I mean,
type
a picture does display 1,000 words. Yeah. They're just reiterating it with the big old yellow.
Nicco froze.
Well, now it's orange. All right, but like, wait, is there a dreadhead emoji? And if there is, can he turn like white? Because if he can, all the black people are going to get mad. But back in the day, white people were rocking locks too. So, you know, they were just stanky, though.
It didn't wash much. Hey, now.
Okay, so
don't be pounding on my my hippie brethren, man.
here's my meme I made. So look all the way to the right.
Yeah.
You got the Converse.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's what it reminded me of. Like people's bios are getting so full of flags and icons and like eggplants and all this other kind of stuff. That it's like we're not far off from everybody's gonna be just holding up cards like Marvin the Martian or whatever. Who's that? Kevin Hart, Marvin the Martian, Bugs Bunny, Lamborghini logo, Fred Flintstone. Like it's all this stuff. I mean, what it is that's their way of that's their cryptography, and that was kind of where I think that stuff came from. Was
that's fine.
How Vin was describing it, but yeah. So I'm just waiting for when that becomes the new wave, is to throw up those
green shoes.
Those green shoes. They're gonna make an emoji of it. And if not, everybody's going to have a picture of. I'm really interested to see tonight at the game. It's in Boston, which is really far from Texas. Doesn't matter. I would not be surprised if there's people with like the little heart on their shoes, and if everybody's wearing green shoes. Or something. There's be some. Look, man, y'all got to recognize this rituals and.
The energy
ceremonies
is serious.
Yeah. All those eyeballs focused. Like we talked about it with the Super Bowl. This is the Super Bowl for the NBA. It's the NBA Finals.
They're going to most definitely throw it on the Jumbotron. They're most definitely, it's going to be something, and they're going to do a memorial of it. And, I mean.
Hey, Jabari, there ain't nothing wrong with a little weed.
He was talking about your hippie brethren, and I was talking about
the white dudes with the dreads. They usually sold weed.
All they're going to do is
just like, this is acceptable cultural appropriation. I will let you have these dreads if you will sell me good weed.
Right.
Marcus can attest to this. The more eyeballs, the more people you put in a room, the more you can amplify and alter reality.
Mm-hmm.
And so all they're doing is just allowing you to alternate your own reality by just throwing a prop and an idea in your head, and knowing that you won't have the proper discernment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, guys, I think that we have beaten this horse, and I do want to say that again, create your own reality. Devote yourself to whatever God you want. Mine happens to be a little weird, but I think my God gets to my heart probably quicker than any other God would. God looked at me and said, "This guy needs a weird guy." All right, how about voodoo? So because to me, God isn't a father. It's just not. That didn't work for me. God isn't, some dude sitting on a throne in the sky. That don't work for me. God's a guy that's got my back no matter what, and he will have me no matter what, including through death, past death, and on. He is my best friend, and he is my partier. He loves to sit with me with a little glass of rum, a cigar, and says, "I love you," every way that he can. And that's the God that works for me. So whatever works for you, whatever reality you choose, whatever God you decide that you are going to be devoted to, if that God gives you love, if that God gives you glory, if that God brings you closer to being a good goddamn person, all power to you. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. I don't know what reality is. I think I do sometimes, but I don't. And you need to find what your reality is and devote yourself to being a good goddamn person.
To second that notion, and to end on a little bit of comedic relief, I was deep artist. But when I did envision God to be a big old white man in the sky, was I the only one to think his beard was like knotted up? A big old Viking knot,
hookah shells and stuff or something.
Yeah, like I thought God was a big ass hippie. Not for a lot of you, like
Jesus definitely was.
Oh yeah, no, Jesus was most definitely slinging reefer on the streets. Like he was definitely. I'm sorry.
Slander my Jesus.
I'm so sorry.
Love your Jesus, dude.
Jesus was not doing anything wrong. It's an herb, okay?
Mike and Jesus.
encourage
The way you say
weed.
slinging, it sounds like it was like he was on the corner and you know,
he had the wine on the corner, man. We talked about that earlier.
He was cutting it with rosemary and
I
basil or
didn't
something.
say that like
cilantro.
Jesus had a pimp cup that was refilled with water and turned into wine, and had like, you know, since he was always around the prostitutes and things of that nature, Jesus was not a pimp. He wasn't on the corner like throwing rock. It's a little.
Well, then don't use terms like slanging.
You see, Jesus needs to come to my house and turn my oregano to weed. That's the
oregano. That's what. See, you can tell I never smoked because I was like calling up all kind of things that like you would know immediately. Like, this is rosemary. What the hell is this doing in here? Like, well, this looks nothing like weed. Stinks. I'm terrible at this. I'm the worst, bro. I'm so mad. The other day, I had some basil, some mint, and then some like Thai basil and some. It's like a lemon leaf. Stuff's really good stuff for like soups and, you know, seasoning and basil, obviously, for its like we do it with like tomatoes.
What's up with their cookbook, Chad? What's the word with their cookbook?
Oh yeah, wait. So let me finish my story. So I opened up a bucket of chlorine tablets that I have for my pool, and I didn't realize that the bottom of the bucket had cracked. I dropped it when I was getting it out of the car like 3 weeks ago. The bottom of the bucket had cracked, and it rained, and like it puddled underneath it, and some of the moisture got in there, and so like all those tablets were like oxidized. And I opened up the lid, and like I got choked out by like a puff of chlorine dioxide gas.
Wow!
And I dealt with it for like a day and a half. It was like coughing up a lung damn near.
Wow.
Well, anyway, the next day I go over to that spot, and like all the basil leaves at the top are like curled up and brown, and like because it was close by there. So like apparently that little cloud just kind of went through and like hit my whole little herb garden, but it only hit like the top of it. So like I hurried up and clipped the tops and everything so that it didn't make its way, you know, infect the rest of the planet, so to speak. Yeah, it really pissed me off because that thing was like booming, man. It was getting out of control. It was delicious too. So anyway,
note to Amber: Chad needs herbs.
All right, yeah, fair enough. But anyway, that's it. So like, look, man, I love y'all. Our audience, these two gentlemen, Marcus and Nicco, are my homies. Nicco, it's what did I say? What was the day? It's almost June 10th. Okay, so yeah, Friday is 2 years since Nicco joined the show. And since I don't even count that as like Nicco joining the show. To me, it's like
he arrived.
2 years. No, it's 2 years since the show started. Yeah. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like I don't even like, I can't even remember. I can't remember us doing a show without Nicco.
Right.
Like,
holy shit! It's been 2 years.
Yeah, 2 years on Friday. Yeah,
holy crap!
2 years on Friday, bro. Yeah, so it was right before your
been shooting shit with y'all for 2 years.
Birthday, yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, so I just and I appreciate all of our audience members who keep coming out week after week. Even though we've changed the day from Wednesday from Tuesday to Wednesday to Sunday, back to Wednesday again. We got shit going on. And and so I was thinking about it today. You know, it was really easy to keep a schedule 2 years ago because so much shit was locked down, and there was like the expectations on like going to work and showing up in person and stuff like that were nowhere close to. Now I was still flying. I was flying to Michigan, all this other kind of stuff, but there was a lot more. I felt like I had a lot more freedom 2 years ago.
Do you think?
Freedom to podcast. I felt like I had no freedom otherwise, and I was having to fight and assert my freedom. I was like, no, I'm not wearing a mask. I'm not doing any of this shit. Like, I'm not. No. I'm out there, like, you know, raw dogging airports and airplanes all the time. Pause. I didn't mean it like that, but you know what I mean. Like, I was miraculously avoiding the magic virus. You know,
wrap your mouth.
What? No.
Wow, dude.
Hey, look, because look, things are silly outside, and apparently we have to wrap our faces up with these cloths that are so great at stopping whenever we're spitting. So
Yeah.
good times.
Yeah, and it's anyway. So it's been a great 2 years. So I want to thank you, Nicco, for joining us and
I thank you for
for
the
sticking
first
around.
invite.
Yeah, for
I
sticking
plan
around all
to-
this whiteness and the fact that me and Marcus talk too much and we step on you all the time. And you have to
Yeah.
I know you've been working out, so you can
No.
throw your weight around in here. So
No. It's something that I do have to work on and being more vocal. There's some times where I'm just like, phooey, why isn't my brain working? And then other times, like, my brain wants to get chatting up. And all as soon as this becomes a live studio and we're face to face, this would be a whole different
Oh, I
experience.
know.
A
Dude,
whole different experience.
Patreon, people. We did
word.
make that shit happen.
Hey,
That'd be
also
great.
also
I'll stick
share
that
this
shit
with
into the-
people. Like
Right.
if you know some people who aren't retarded and you would like to share this podcast with them so that they can join the party, we would love to have that, because then
For sure.
when we finally eclipse that 1,000 subscriber
Subscribe.
mark, we can actually monetize this bitch and get super chats and all that stuff, and then you can start showing your love that way, and we'll hype you up on the screen and everything. But because we are well beyond the watch time that we need to get there. So all we need is, I don't know, like 125 subscribers. We're 125 subscribers away as of today. So
Yeah.
help us get that number. I don't typically ask for this. Like I don't think any of us do really. Like I kind of look at it like, if people want this, they're going to find it and they're going to stick around and they're going to subscribe and everything. But if you know some people, they can't find out about it if they don't know it exists. So if you know some people who could benefit from checking us out, please share and get the word out, because it'll help us out. But also, like, the biggest reason why we're doing this is because we want to help. We want to do something valuable and good for the world around us, because I don't know how much time we have to
Enjoy.
To help some of these souls gird themselves for what's coming and what's already here, honestly.
Yeah.
Facts.
Because the bottom line is, we don't want to be, but we want everybody to know what it means to find God. And we want everybody to know what it means to, and I don't mean any particular way. And I want everyone to know what it means to be free. And those two things combined, ain't nothing can stop you.
I thought you were ending the show right there. I was ready to hit the button. You're like,
So
I just want people to be free. And I was like, oh, he didn't say stay free, so I didn't do it.
So if everybody's ready, just
stay hydrated.
and hydrated.
And free. Peace, y'all. We love y'all.